You are listening to.
You're listening to.
You're listening to.
You're listening to Noel Johnson. Noel Johnson.
Noel Johnson
On Lockdown.
Lockdown.
Lockdown Radio. Radio.
Radio. Lockdown Radio.
Live today. Lockdown Radio.
Right, it's Delight Grooves in the Heart on Lockdown Radio. Now, our economy, and not just our economy, the global economy has been ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic. And, you know, I just feel that a lot of us are so worried about our finances and stuff at the moment, and we're not quite sure where to go about and what to do about it. So I thought it would be a good idea to speak to someone who's in the financial industry and someone who understands the financial industry that could maybe give us a little bit of insight into what is going on in the world at the moment with finances, and more importantly, what we can do going forward. And joining me now on the line is Dave Romero, who is the CEO of Seeds Life Cabin Impact Investments. And thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to Lockdown Radio.
Good morning, Noel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Dave, you're a financial specialist, and off the bat, I'm just going to throw it out there. This world is in absolute chaos.
The world will never be the same. What used to be normal in the past is not going to be normal in the future. You know, we as entrepreneurs, we've taken our old business plans and we've just thrown out the window and recalibrating the new normal. So yeah, it's going to be a global recession. Unemployment rates are going to skyrocket. Businesses are going to close down. It's going to be a total bloodbath in the financial sector. And we're going to have to, as I said, recalibrate, look at the situation and see how we're going to move forward in a positive manner. But the reality is that the world is never going to be the same again.
Yeah, and I think that's fairly obvious in all forms of industry and trade as well, and just in personal life as well. Now, you're involved in the nitty-gritty of the financial scene. On the news, we see, you know, just what is put out there for us and whatever, but you're actually involved in more the technical side of it. Can you give us some insight into this financial scene and maybe a bit more detail in the approach that can be taken to actually understand what's going on?
My area of expertise is venture capital, and venture capital is a process where we invest and develop entrepreneurs from concept right through to being a fully capitalized operational business. And so how the situation is going to impact in the financial services sector is that the way we used to do investments, for instance, is going to change. What has happened is through the virus is a complete new consciousness on how to do things. So there's been a shift over the years, the last 10 years, where companies have taken more of a corporate social responsibility role, in that they don't just look at the profits, but they look at the impact of the environment and the people that they interact with. What the virus has done is sped up this process completely. Capital markets in disarray. People don't really know what's to forecast. Look what's happening in oil prices. In Texas, Brent, what has happened is that barrel of oil has gone into negative territory. So people are paying people to take barrels of oils away from them. So this would have never ever happened in new circumstances. Also, what's happening is that countries need to borrow to circumvent the costs of the virus. So look at our own situation. Our president has put a stimulus package of 500 billion, which I think is a great idea. We're going to have to borrow money, and borrowing that money entails that we're going to pay interest. Because we've been derogated to junk status, which means that we're paying more interest. So what's the impact going to be is a company, or rather, or companies and countries will have to borrow large amounts of capital to get themselves outside of this problem. And so expect a lot of bankruptcies, expect countries defaulting on their loans. It's going to be chaos. I hazard to forecast exactly what's going to happen, but that's our new normality.
I'm going to ask you to predict in the future. But you've just answered like 3 of my questions that I wanted to ask you in one answer. So that's awesome. What I want to talk about, though, is money that we're going to have to borrow, this country. And the timing of the coronavirus could not have been worse, considering the fact that we had been downgraded a few times and we had just been downgraded to junk status. Where does it leave South Africa in the next 2 or 3 years? Where are we going to be at?
Yes, it's a scary thought to borrow money, obviously, and the impact of the junk status means that we pay more for what we borrow. So when we go to capital markets to fund part of the 500 billion, we're going to have to pay a higher interest rate than what we used to pay prior to the junk status. So yes, the economy was in a bad shape. The 29.1% unemployment rate, that's going to skyrocket. It's going to go to about 50%. Companies are going to close. Thousands and thousands of companies are going to close. Unemployment, as I said, is going to hit 50%. Companies are going to look for borrowing for investors. It's going to be a bloodbath. Let's make no mistake. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat a situation when the reality is what it is. So that's where we are. We've got an economy that's faltering, but, and there's a huge but here, I do believe that Ramaphosa wants to change things for the better of the poor. I do believe that he is trying, and I believe in our finance minister, Minister Mweni. He's now been given a free hand to start fixing the economy. So we're looking at the SOEs, which are a total disaster. Now the virus has forced SA to close down, which should have closed down a long time ago. We should privatize or partly privatize the SOEs. It's a necessity, and I think that our minister will have now a free hand to implement those changes. So what I think in 2 years' time, I think there's going to be, as I said, it's going to be a bloodbath now in the next few months, but then we'll start recalibrating, adjusting. In 2 years' time, we will bounce back. I think the economy is going to bounce back. The GDP will probably be at about 4%. With the stimulus package now that's been introduced, the full impact will be felt in about 6 months' time, and you'll start seeing the economy growing from there. I believe in our president. Are supporting fully, and I think that we do have a bright future. Call me an eternal optimist, but it's through calculated analysis that I believe that in 2 years' time our GDP will be 4%.
Look, I mean, it's got nothing to do with being an eternal optimist, because I was talking about it in my show last week or so, and it's almost as if because of the coronavirus, we've sort of hit a reset button. So it could be a blessing in disguise. But I want to shift the focus now to individuals. How has this impacted them on a financial level? And secondly, what can they do with their money wisely going forward?
There's no doubt that corporates and entrepreneurs are going to feel the pinch of lack of turnover, and there will be a lot of retrenchments. As I said earlier, there's going to be a bloodbath. So if you've got a job and the corporate that you work for or the job you work for is carrying on, I suggest you give that entrepreneur in particular full support. They're going to be struggling, and they're going to need the support of all the staff. What it means for the future, though, is my suggestion is don't spend. Don't spend on unnecessary stuff now. And for heaven's sake, don't borrow money. I'm appalled at some of the people that I mentor where the majority of their salary goes towards paying overdrafts and bonds and car repayments. Just don't spend and focus on retaining your capital or paying off your debt. Just postpone for years buying a new car or upgrading your house or buying fancy stuff. Just retain your cash. Keep your cash. And rather try to save it up. If you can, save it up. And rather stop buying things cash. We live in a society where we're heavily indebted as compared to other emerging markets. And this really has to stop. So really that's my message. If you can't buy cash, do without. Do not borrow money if you don't have to.
Oh, Dave, that's absolutely incredible advice, and thanks for sharing that with us. Tell us a little bit about your Atlantis project, because you've been getting your hands dirty during this time of lockdown, and actually started before lockdown. Tell us about Atlantis.
Atlantis is a city that's a forgotten city. You have the unemployment rate amongst youth of 75%, and that was prior to the lockdown. I would hate to think what the rate's going to be post-lockdown. So Atlantis Dream Team is an NPO that feeds school kids after school, about 300 a week, and that's the only meal that they have. It's run by Maggie Fars. She's a true champion. And she approached me a few years ago to assist them in uplifting the Atlantis community. Now, we're a for-profit company, we're a venture capital company, so we look at situations where we turn NPOs to be self-sustainable. To that end, we started a community investment company where the community invests in the company for the purposes of developing entrepreneurs in Atlantis. So what we do is we made Atlantis Dream Team NPO a shareholder of this company that does activity for the purposes of Atlantis Dream Team being self-sustainable. So I'm a trustee of Atlantis Dream Team. I managed to get one of the top merchant banks in London to be a sponsor, Strand Hansen, and if you go into their website you'll see that Atlantis Dream Team is featured there. And Caban, my company also supports and has been supporting them for 5 years. So what we're doing now is we're doing food parcels. So besides doing meals, we're busy with food parcels. Now we started the outreach on Friday. We've raised 12,000 Rand already through our own contacts. We've put the Atlantis Dream Team on Back a Buddy. And it's really, I'm really reaching out, even 50 Rand. 50 Rand produces 2 food parcels. Now, and the reason why we can do so cheaply is because of bulk buying. And Maggie is a rock star. She's able to do miracles with nothing. We've also got Chinese community of Atlantis supporting and corporate. So that's basically what Atlantis does. Prior to lockdown, we were feeding 300 kids on average per week. As I said, that was the only meal. Now we're doing food parcels and meals. So I'm appealing again, even 50 Rand. We're on Back a Buddy. If you go onto my Facebook page, you'll get the connections through to Back a Buddy. But if not, it's on Atlantis Dream Team on Back a Buddy. But please, 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 please give some. Just $50 makes a big difference.
Okay, that's great. I do have the contact details and the Backer Buddy details on the scrolling below, so people can go on there and donate. Right, Dave Romero, it has been fantastic talking to you, and thank you so much for joining us on Lockdown Radio today and giving us a little bit of insight into the finances.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I just want to quickly mention the fact that Africa rocking the lockdown, that four of us are giving, or some of us giving a free advice. Karen and Bruce that started the page, Anime and myself, we're posting on a daily basis. It's for free. And this is our contribution to assist people that are going through a lockdown and hopefully motivating and inspiring people. So as a result of this, the four of us decided to form a company, which we will be announcing soon, and we will continue giving advice in the way we've been giving advice. So once again, Noel, thanks very much for the opportunity.
That's Dave Romero, CEO of Seeds Life Cabin Impact Investments, and he's doing a wonderful job with what is that? Atlantis, and you should really check out what they are up to. It is really incredible. Right, coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to be featuring Jock Mouton right here on Lockdown Radio.
Lockdown Radio.
You are listening to
You're listening to
Noel
Johnson
Johnson
on Lockdown Radio.
Lockdown Radio.
Live today. Lockdown.